plonk this back here for a minute.
Hello, Trey.
Hello, mate.
How you doing?
I'm very good, Locker.
We have a visitor,
We do.
Mr. Simon
Hello.
Dyson. How are you, boys?
Oh, pleasure to be here.
We have a dice here.
We have a dice.
Yeah.
I have a quick question, quick fire question to you both. What are the two things from each of you that you see regularly from amateur golfers that you would ideally like to get rid of? So 2 traits that any golfer from their swing perspective, they typically do that you would say golfers could probably work on in general terms.
Okay.
What would you go with?
Me?
Yeah,
First?
go on.
I'd just say strike in general.
So low point.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah.
Dice?
I mean, I was going to go with that as well. There's
So-
a lot of casters.
So,
Yeah.
all right, so there we go, there's 2 already. Let's just leave it at that. So you've got casting
Yeah. Fishing.
and low point.
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to teach you both
Yeah.
a bit of magic today, okay? Of how to treat that conversation in one lesson. So we're going to get rid of casting and we're going to get rid of low point.
We're going to get rid of it, mate. I'll pay you $1 million to do that.
Can you show me what a cast looks like? Does someone show me,
Right.
just show me,
Go
grab
on,
a golf club.
Dice, you got one.
Anybody grab a golf club. I want you to show me what a cast is.
Dice got some new irons. I know they're...
Yeah, they're
those with the
mine new
wrappers
eyes.
on,
Look at that,
mate.
look at that. They've still got the wrappers on. Thank you, Callaway. Dice, what's a cast, mate?
So a cast is when you start releasing the club too early on the downswing.
So that would look like what an impact for many golfers.
So that would look like that at impact.
So sort of handle behind, club head, those sorts of
Club's
ideas.
gone there instead of holding that angle and having the...
Okay, so how would you both, how
Yeah.
would you get rid of that with any student?
With any student. I think...
I know
I'd-
everybody's different, I get that, but let's just say blanket statements, they're casting.
Yeah.
And let's just say blanket statement, they're okay in their backswing.
Yeah.
Relative to club face
I mean,
alignment.
one thing I would do would be, just for feel purposes, an alignment stick
Yeah.
down the back of the club so that they can't do it too early because it would hit them. So it helps them learn to keep wrist angles and keep the shaft lean in there.
Would that be more of a sensation of a hold for that student?
Yeah.
A hold, okay, yeah. Would
So
you
it
go,
keep the almost like that type of feel?
and then try and soften out the release at some point when the
Yes.
student was
Yeah.
ready for it? Would you? What about you, mate? Would you be the same?
I think I'd educate them on where they actually need to be because a lot of people don't know. So maybe just introduce the concept of why we need to be there and how we get there. And then a lot of the time I see people pull there when they haven't got awareness for loft or essentially too much loft or an open club face.
So they're trying to rescue
Trying
it.
to
I
rescue
agree.
it,
I think
yeah.
the first thing on scooping is how they manage the club face.
Yeah.
But I just simply think if you get the player moving better, they'll just get rid of the scoop straight away.
Yeah.
Now he's done this. You haven't done
Let's
this.
have a go.
You haven't done this. Right, man. Not that I'm going to teach you anything because you know what you
I'm
do.
always willing to learn,
Right.
mate. I'm
So if I
always
was
willing to
teaching
learn.
a amateur golfer to move better, get rid of the scoop, I would introduce what I call the pendulum, which you already had your brief tense of that. You thought,
Yeah.
I kind of know what he's talking about before I even
Yeah.
get there. This is just an introduction into mechanics that maybe students forget about because they're trying to find positions.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Because I think positions, and hopefully the reason I'm doing this with you said to me in Costa Nav, by the way, we've got a trip coming up. That man, this man, this man, we're running a trip. You guys need to learn about that.
They're phenomenal.
We'll talk about that. You said when you played your best golf, you didn't care what things looked like and you knew what your golf swing did. So you weren't trying desperately fixated on positions. Was that fair?
Yeah, it was all ball flight.
Ball
I
flight.
focused on ball flight and that was all. I
Every-
knew I didn't have the best swing and it was all right. It was all right. I struck the ball great, but I like to work the ball. So my imagination's running wild when I get on a dogleg hole. I'm like, right,
So your performance and ball flight based rather than technically position based.
100%.
Right. So I think the biggest issue in instruction, and I come from this now with my own baggage, I swung the golf club as a kid. Let's call it, if I can hate that, technically pretty perfect. Like on playing, golf club looked pretty immaculate. But on the golf course, I was so lost in technique that I couldn't perform. Does that make sense? I'd be more worried about P2, like it was awful.
And I know exactly how you feel because when I came back from my injury, I got so technically obsessed. I became so internal that the external part of it was ruined.
Because I know that's where you do so great with your performance work with students. This is why I want to talk to you about it today. I think golf coaches need to do a better job teaching movement rather than positions.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So to get rid of a scoop, we would say handles back. Right. Stand just in front of the golf ball for me. I'm going to get out a shot camera and I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Hold the golf club upright in your thumb and forefinger. Right. Create a grandfather clock pendulum in any way. Right. I've never seen anybody, amateur or anybody, get that wrong. Ever.
Yeah.
Right. Now, do that. Keep going. Just keep going. Right. And one more. Right. Hold. There's forward lean in the shaft.
Yep.
Agreed? So
Yep.
we've got a down strike to the energy.
Yep.
We've got a low point and an up strike.
Yep.
We can teach that as down strike to up strike.
Yep.
Right, now I want you to move the pendulum so that relative to the golf ball, you've still got your down strike before, and right on that occasion, you just moved your arms. Now I want you to move your body in a way that there's a down strike ahead of the golf ball. Right, so keep going. If I can catch this on camera, hold. Can we see in the camera, I don't know if you can see that, there's a forward lean to the shaft. How much hold was in the wrist?
None.
This is where I get really up, like I get confused as a golf coach.
Got to add a point in there. 0 grip pressure as well.
Right, supple grip, supple grip. Now I'd say grip pressure is one of those things that I'm not sure about, I haven't done enough testing on. One thing I am sure about, if I go 10 out of 10 on grip pressure and go 0 out of 10 on wrist angles, in terms of my wrist mechanics and forearm tension, that golf club has play. So when I teach, or when I look at scoop, the idea of holding, I've taught, but then I always get the idea of no ball speed, ball's lower. For the average punter, they go, I can't hit it very far. They love strike, they absolutely love strike. But then they go, how do I translate that to full of shots? And then all of a sudden they revert back. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you do that again for me, what was the difference when I asked you then to create forward lean?
With the body?
Yeah.
Movement.
Okay, so
Transition,
here's-
right-sided, left-sided.
here's the best, keep going. Here's the best bit. Most amateurs can't do what you're doing.
Okay.
So when is your pressure moving back to your left foot relative to the golf swing going back? So when the club is there, where's your pressure gone?
So it's starting to go onto my left side.
Let's treat this the top of your backswing.
Yeah.
At what point did you feel like you started to shift pressure back to your left side?
Just before.
Just before. So you're
marginally.
yeah. So you're starting in this system.
Yeah.
Relative to this drill, you felt like your pressure was going back to the target to the lead side.
Yeah.
Right. Couple more rehearsals for me, and then I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. Okay. Grip pressure's light, and you're moving your pressure, and now start to add in whatever feels that you've got because you're trying to work on a bit of a fade.
Yeah.
So what would you do with your body relative to that?
I just feel like I turned onto it a little bit harder.
Fantastic.
That's about it.
And if you were going to draw it, what would you do a little bit less of or more of?
Probably less rotation and feel like the club was actually going more down the target line.
So in that
where I'm aiming.
In that scenario, I think we've taught what angle of attack is, how much grip pressure you need. You've then discussed what fade or draw is. We've already encompassed everything.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Really, really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Now, do 2 more rehearsals of the pendulum, and then I'm going to ask you to hold the golf club really light in your hands with your thumbs off, just at your address position.
Yeah.
So now take it down to your address position, take your thumbs off the golf club, and create the same momentum back and forth, same length of golf swings, where you create the same move. Okay, just back and forth. What do you feel different relative to even your own golf swing, which I would say is amazing anyway? What would you say feels different to you?
I can really feel the lag.
Right, so on the
feel the lag.
right, so on the camera we would see more forward lean of the shaft.
A lot more.
So I'm going to ask you now to take your thumbs off the golf club, feel like there's little to no set going back, and start to create the pendulum on the way down. Perfect. And again, and I'm going to track it at impact on my phone, and we're going to look at it on the camera. Okay, you can hit any shot you want.
Am I hitting a shot?
Yeah, let's go sort of your 30, 40, 50 yard pitch shot. Imagine as if you're an amateur golfer. And let's just hit one where you feel like you've created the same move. How much tension or hold was in that conversation?
None.
Right. Can you see my camera? Come and have a look at this, Dice. I know that this player knows what he's doing. Can you see that on the camera?
Sometimes.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. Oh, someone's at home, look. Right. So into delivery, we can see the thumbs have got no pressure on the golf club. So you're not holding anything. There's definitely an increase, I hate this word, so we're going to be careful with that, of, let's say, lag. I hate that word, but let's just call it. No pressure in the thumbs, the body's turning, and you've created a lot of forward lean on the shaft. Now, I know you create a lot anyway,
Yeah.
but you've done that without any hold.
Yeah.
That which is where the conversation is.
Yeah.
Now, I prefer that, and I also prefer that softer release.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because most
Yeah.
people, when they do a pendulum, right? Most people who are doing a pendulum, their type of release becomes perspective to the pendulum conversation. If I hold a golf club in a vertical plane, and I take the golf club back, the face looks closed relative to what we see in the camera most often. On the way through, the face looks
Open.
right. Put that on a 45-degree plane. It's still looking a little bit closed, a little bit open. My bias, my money, I'd like to see the face relatively consistent to spine angle and relatively consistent to spine angle on the way through. Most elite level players in big wrap. So when you teach the pendulum from amateur to good player, all of a sudden when they do the pendulum, they're strong in face, they're good in pressure, they're good at impact, and they're a little more cuppy on the follow through. So that's the way I would teach scooping versus angle attack versus amateur versus tour pro. At some point, the player's going to tell me a conversation like grip pressure, they feel like they're moving. I would then attach one part of that lesson to that conversation. Does that make sense? And that's how I would teach it. And I would start off with one of the things you said. I got no real grip pressure going on. I felt lag quickly. So if I'm going to teach compression, get rid of scoop, I'd get them to do lower part of the arc, halfway back to halfway through, very light wrist, create a pendulum. All of a sudden now there's a delay in the shaft relative to the body, and to some degree they're going to create some degree of downstrike. And that's how I would teach like a pendulum, but I wouldn't do it like positional.
No, not at all.
But I think it can be easily done that way. Does that make sense?
I feel like when you've got the grip pressure off anyway, it just automatically sets anyway. You're not manipulating it, you're just letting the club.
That's where we have to give up control then. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because most golfers I see with a weak grip, let's just
grip it hard again.
Right, I'm going to grip it hard because I've got no control.
Yeah.
I think as long as the grip is in half decent condition, I would start with the pendulum. That make sense?
Yeah. I like that.
You're too good for me.
No, I like that.
You're too good for me.
Right, I really do.
If you want to see more, on the pendulum, I'm going to do a video for YouTube at some point. Probably not with somebody that's a million-time tour pro that's won every event played the Masters. But the next video you're going to see is going to be like custom nav with these boards. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.